Luck is what happens when opportunity meets preparation. This is a quote from Seneca, Roman philosopher. And today we're going to be talking about the age old question of e commerce businesses, which is should you work with an in house team, an agency, or an individual freelancer? And what are the pros and cons of all of these ones? And what I love about making a video like this is I spend the last 10 years listening to other people who clearly have a horse in the race create a video. And yes, I do have a horse in this race because I have an email marketing agency. So possibly the end might result in me pushing you towards that direction. So if you just came here for my opinion on the matter, actually, what I will do is I will say that it depends. So I will try to be as um, objective as possible. Obviously, if you guys are making a lot of money with your e-commerce store and you happen to um, be looking for someone to help you with your email marketing, then yeah, you can get in touch. There's going to be links in below. But this is the part where I just wanted to put all of this out there. So you have which horse I have in this race. And let's get straight into it because there's definitely some benefits to the other two options. So, like having a freelancer and having an in house team. So, definitely, if you, I mean, this is definitely making a lot of sense if you make over 5 mil per month, for example. It can also make sense if you make less than that, but I think it's good to be aware sorry, of both the pros and the cons. So with an in-house team, you definitely have more control. Like, you know which what people are doing. If you, for example, have an office like Gymshark, then you can, as a marketing manager, you can just turn up at the office, and if you notice something about the emails, you can just ask about it there, or you can bring it up today. Whereas, for example, agencies are pretty notorious for, once you're working with them, I will be quite frank about the because if you know nothing about me, so in the past 8 years, I worked with over 200 e-commerce brands, which includes two Fortune 500 companies. I did this by working at an email marketing agency for 5 years, and then since then I have my own agency. So yeah, and I don't do TikTok ads, I don't do Twitter, I don't do anything like this. What I do is, as you've noticed, I start all of my YouTube videos with a philosophy quote at the beginning. All right, so that's my thing. Back to in-house teams. So in general, I understand people's frustrations, and we will get to the downsides of agencies, but it's hard to not mention it in this case, for example, which is, it's quite rigid. Once you're working with them, oh, okay, maybe we can talk to you like next week, for example, when you're having like something that's an issue for you. And this is also how I'm looking to position my agency, because I know this is a big issue for a lot of e-com stores, that I want us to be like really fast and really flexible, which I think is going to be the two main issues, which we will get to when it comes to agencies. But it's good to put it all out there. Another really big one, which I can definitely see if I had my own e-commerce store, which is your team knows your brand. So what that means is, it can happen with agencies that, these guys, they maybe never worked in your niche. Maybe you have a unique niche. Maybe it's like, I don't know, lingerie brand, or a specific type of coffee, or a specific, like, for example, an agency with mostly guys, and then let's say your brand is like menopause, like something like very feminine, right? So there can be sometimes when you're reading copy that the agency wrote, and you're like, do you even know what we're selling? So that's going to be less likely with your in-house team. And yeah, more control. You know who you're hiring, and you kind of have that responsibility as well, and accountability that if it doesn't work, that it was your hire, right? Whereas with an agency, you kind of hire the team, and then maybe if those guys aren't really that good with HR, then it's kind of like, I mean, you can still talk to them. We had experiences where a client wanted to just change the designer because they just didn't feel their work. But it's a little bit more tricky if you work with an agency, especially if it's like a really established one, with over 100 employees with their own office and stuff like that. So some of the downsides of an in-house team. So it's often more expensive. So I actually did some research about the US, and yeah, this is going to be kind of US specific. If you're in Europe or something like that, that's fine. It's honestly not too much different in Europe. Like it's not a whole lot more inexpensive. So an average email marketing coordinator in the US makes like 63 to $87,000 a year. So how they broke it down is, let's say an email marketing coordinator, based on these two sources, let's say like 60K a year, and an email marketing specialist who's actually like really good at their job. So this is like entry level email marketing coordinator, 60K. So that would be 5K per month for you. But if you hire a specialist, that's more like 5.56, 6.5K per month, possibly more if you hire them, plus taxes and bonuses. And also another thing is, which we're going to be touching on in terms of the freelancers, this is just one person, right? So this is not an email marketing team. So just to give you some insight, at my agency or our agency, for every client we have, actually it kind of depends on different clients, but let's say with clients that have the most needs, so that usually means, really specific about design and really specific about copywriting. I usually have an account manager, maybe I'm even also involved, by the way, who's really good at copywriting. And also, by the way, another skill that you might not think about when it comes to hiring an email marketing manager is their client communication skills, which is a whole skill in itself. And in my experience, actually, how happy you, so the client is kind of 50% dependent on how good I am or we are at communication and like over communicating what we're testing, because a lot of teams are actually doing pretty good work, but they just haven't paid that much attention to the communication. So you might get the experience that they're not doing a whole lot, and you're like, oh, are they even doing anything? So yeah, in general, like the in-house team is by far the most expensive, which is why it makes the most sense if you make over 5 mil per month. Like let's say, yeah, for Gymshark. And also, by the way, this is something I missed out, I think, on the in-house pros. So from a legal perspective, it's easier to manage because, for example, unless you let's say if you hire like a bad agency or a bad freelancer, and let's say they don't use alt text because they don't know about the American Disabilities Act of 1990, and they don't know about it, so they don't put alt text in your images, and you get sued. But because maybe you have a contract with them, and it's difficult to have them pay your fine. I mean, it depends on your negotiation skills as well, and also what sort of contract you had in place, if at all you had any contract in place, which I see so many non-contract agreements, and it's crazy. Especially happens with if you work with a new beginner freelancer who they got results for one brand and they managed to get 40% revenue from email, and now they're telling you they can do the same for you, even though they don't have the experience of, like, say, someone who's done it for like 5 to 10 years, where you know that there's so many things that depend, like that your results will depend on. Very important to know this. So yeah, from a legal perspective, it can be better to hire an in-house team. Like if you get into some legal troubles, it can be better. But at the same time, if you want to hire a really good email marketing specialist, it's actually really difficult to stay legal with emails because there's so many you know what I was going to say, so many regulations and so many weird rules and so many um corporate lawyer, just like companies who are out there to get you. There's so many of them out there. Um, Legal firms, all of this. So you need to hire someone who's actually good at it, because chances are you might not be good at it. So you might need to hire a lawyer in that case as well. This is one benefit of hiring a good agency, because, for example, we have a lawyer ourselves and we have like people that worked at different agencies too. So combining all of that knowledge together, we know about these rules because we face them, right? Like we worked with over 200 different brands, so it's much less likely that we get into legal trouble than your new specialist who might have lied on their resume, in all honesty. Because the yeah, I'm sure this is something that you noticed. If you get this far in, you're looking at this video because you're probably looking to hire an email marketing team, or maybe you want to future proof or think ahead for when you're going to be hiring one. I'm sure you noticed a lot of people lie on their resumes. So you kind of need to take their word for it. So yeah, but let's just take, for example, I also searched, this is just my search on Google before this video. How much is an email marketing team? So a email marketing designer, for example, that costs even more because designing is a whole other skill. And this is going to be a big downside, by the way, um, of working with a freelancer, for example, that it's really tough for someone to be exceptional at all of these things. So chances are, if you have a small budget, usually hiring an individual freelancer from Fiverr or something, maybe that can make a lot of sense, honestly. Although the quality is bad 9 out of 10 times. So at that point, might be better to just do it yourself, right? If you're at that level, like let's say like under 30K revenue per month consistently, maybe it's better for you to just set up the flows, which you can check on my YouTube channel, what flows to set up, and just leave it at that. And in the meantime, just focus on scaling until you get to like 50K, at which point you can afford either like a really good freelancer. If so, I actually think if design is not important for you, it can make some sense to hire just a copywriter, honestly, who can be kind of slash a little bit in-house, maybe an individual freelancer, because the two can be, like where do you draw the line? Because I also have technically employees, but it's contractors because of all of these tax laws and stuff. So there can be advantages if, for example, you have a supplement brand and you don't want to have a designer, or it's not important for you to have super fancy design on your emails and you want most of your emails to just be mostly text, I think it can make sense to hire just someone who's good at the concepts of marketing and copywriting, help them with the highest paid version of ChatGPT or um, Gronk, or like whichever the Twitter one, or I don't really like Gemini, but maybe some people like it, I don't know. And then you can just teach them a little, or have them learn Klaviyo. You can teach them, or they can learn it themselves, and then that can be your email marketer, right? But still, a downside of that one is freelancers are usually freelancer. Like if you have a think about it, okay, let's say if you are okay, let's just put yourself in their shoes, okay? You don't have a successful e-commerce store, you're just starting out, finished university, whatever, and you want to be an email marketer, or like you like the lifestyle, whatever. And if you're exceptional, that means you're going to have a lot of clients, right? Like if you're exceptional, do you really think you're only going to have 3 clients on let's say a 12-month period, more than 12-month period, unless you're really really bad at lead generation and you don't want to make more money. um, if you're exceptional, you're going to have more clients just because of word of mouth. You're just going to have more. So with that, if you have more, let's say, I think one person can do a really good job for like 5 6 clients, in my opinion, alone. If they don't do design, if they do design, maybe 3, because design is like a whole other, like that's my main weakness. That's the first thing I hired for when I hired, because I am exceptional at email marketing. Okay. um so yeah, if you just like have a think about it, like maybe it can happen, by the way, that you just catch the freelancer at the best possible moment before they are amazing, before they realize they can just build an agency about this. Because let me just tell you, creating the emails is the least fun part about building an agency. Okay, so that's the thing that everyone will outsource first. Design probably, or maybe if they start out a designer, maybe they outsource the technical aspects of Klaviyo. That can be, these are the first two that people usually do. Maybe copywriting, but it's weird to outsource copywriting before the tech, because copywriting is just more fun than the tech. So, but it can also happen. It's one of these 3 things. But honestly, we want to outsource all of these things because we don't want to deal with delivery. It's just the name of the game. Okay, like if you heard it from me first, then so be it. Like if you ever ask an email marketer or email marketing agency owner, um, they don't do the delivery, okay? Because there are, like, it's just, people want to make more money. So if you also think about it, that's just a thing that makes more sense. But enough about us, okay? This is just a little bit of insight. I think many agency owners don't want to tell you this, but yeah, like back to let's stay on track. So if you hire an in-house team and you have just 2 people, and you hire them yourself, okay, maybe you can hire from, I don't know, Upwork or something like that, at which point it can be cheaper. But in my opinion, like if you can hire cheaper, your ways around it, or you don't have a proper office, or like you don't need to register them. I don't know, like if you can make it work and you just hire a team from online, like all I don't know, Upwork or Fiverr, and you find good people, then it can work. But at that point, the main issue is you need to train them, and most people, like you need to, like, okay, like how much do you want to pay them, right? Like maybe if you pay someone from the Philippines $1,000 per month, maybe that's pretty solid for them, right? But that's like one person once again, and you still need to teach them. And how often, okay, like I really don't want to get banned on YouTube, so I'm not going to continue this sentence. But when it comes to hiring, okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, if you got what I was gonna say, then you got it. If you didn't get it, it's fine. But the point is, it's difficult to hire really good people, and then it's difficult to train them. And if you hired really good people, usually means you're gonna need to pay them more, or you're gonna need to be okay with them having other clients. In which case, they will have less time for you. Okay, or like as at an agency, once again, we have, so here's the people that you would be working with at, for example, my agency. Okay, you would be working with someone whose main job is to be available for you. So they don't even do the delivery, they're just communicating with you because they're good at communication and they have an understanding of email marketing, right? And then there's going to be a person who you're not going to talk to, whose sole job every day is to design 5 emails per day for me, or like for our team. And that's going to be, some of them is going to be your emails, right? Like one designer, I think, can handle like maybe 4 clients or something, like depends on like scope of work. But that's all they do every day: design emails. That's all they do. And you did not need to train them. I trained them, okay? And I have 8 years experience in email marketing with over 200 brands. So probably they're going to be better designers. And then there's going to be another person who's really good with Klaviyo or whatever email tool we're using. You didn't need to train them because I already trained them for over 3 months minimum. Okay. And usually I hire people who are already good at this, which means they have years and years of experience. And usually, because I hired many email marketing people, that's all I hire for. Like the only thing I'm hiring for, this is something I never thought about actually, and good that I think about it in this video, is an benefit of working with an email marketing agency is every time I hire, I'm hiring for an email marketing position. So I'm kind of noticing the tendencies between where is it best to hire, what is the main skill for this job to have, like design, is it creativity, or is it just like standards, like with like taste standards, experience, knowledge of, okay, we need to have call to action buttons above the fold and then also at the bottom of the email. And just notice it, for example, something that is very tough to hire for, but I'm starting to catch the rhythm or the tendencies, is QA, which all this person does is check emails because they have exceptional, autistic, obsessive what's the word, OCD, attention to detail stuff. So they need everything to be perfect. So they might not be as good at the creativity side, like what kind of new campaigns we should do for you because we done every single email from every single angle for your product. Oh, we should do this from this one. They might not be the best at that because their main asset is attention to detail. And they might not be the easiest to work with because they are like really logical, but that's their job and they're amazing at it. I have this one person, incredible. Okay. Funny thing is, I kind of covered a lot of the ground when just discussing in-house teams, which is usually how most of my videos go. But I prepared so many slides, so let's go through them. Individual freelancer, definitely there's a few pros. So this is the cheapest option most of the time. More accountability. So you speak to this person and they do it for you. You know who works on your emails, and they're usually more flexible, which means like if you need a change today on the email, usually they are more likely to do it. But at the same time, once again, if they are really good, that means they're going to get more clients or they're going to want to be paid more. because they know they can get paid more because they're better. Okay. And if they're not good, you probably don't want to work with them in the first place. There's going to be issues, there's going to be mistakes. So at that point, there's going to lead to frustrations for you. And at that point, so yeah, like I'm always, this is something that always frustrates me about like some e-commerce people who I can tell this is the first time they're hiring for this position, or they just have bad mindsets, which is, oh, I want to work with someone, but I want you to only work for me, and I don't want to work with a team. And I'm like, actually, maybe they are okay with working with other people. It's kind of like a little bit of a possessiveness, in my opinion, but that's the less of an issue. I don't want to work with a team, but then you didn't think about the whole process. You didn't think it through, because okay, you can work with me, but if I'm really good, that means I'm gonna get other clients too, which means over time I'm gonna have more than 7, which means I'm gonna need to have a team very soon. And also, it's not good to work with just one person, just in my opinion, unless you don't care about design and just work with a copywriter, as I said earlier, because I'm not good at design. Okay. Like I kind of know when I look at an email, this looks kind of good, but I have no idea where to start with designing one. And I'm really bad at like making an email look pretty. But I know if it looks pretty because I just seen so many, or if it will likely convert more. But I cannot create one. Like it requires so much training, so much practice, and you need to be kind of passionate about designing stuff, and you need to be good at that aspect of it. So, agency cons. So this is the bad side. Obviously, I started with the bad sides so that I can end the video on the agency pros, so that I can get you to come and work with me. Jokes aside, I'm not joking at all. So agencies can be slow. So at the previous agency I was working at, this was my frustration with us, because we had 30 clients and like 30 employees. And in my opinion, we had just too many people working on one client, and we had too many specialists. That's just like my opinion. I think it should be like maybe 3 people working on one client, maybe even 2. But I prefer 3 just because I want one designer who, like, I just want the designer to just be good at designing stuff. Maybe they can do some Klaviyo things. And then I want an account manager who like takes care of the stuff, ownership, moves it forward, follows up with the designer, where are we with this email. And then I want one more person who checks stuff, who's just good at checking. Maybe if I get an amazing account manager, maybe they can do like these 2 jobs in one, but many times it will just need to be 3. Okay. And because of copywriting and ChatGPT, in my opinion, for me, the account manager should be good at copywriting. But at the previous agency, we had 5 people because we had a separate copywriter, we had a separate, so account manager, copywriter, tech person, designer, and QA. So 5 people, sometimes even 6. I think there was like one more person that I'm forgetting about, but that makes things incredibly slow, especially if you work with an international team. Oh, your designer is in Argentina, and your account manager is in Serbia, but your tech person is in India, and then your QA is in the Philippines, and then everything takes 24 hours to move, which means it's very slow to create emails, and that can make you very slow, rigid, and I know e-commerce stores hate that. So with us, there's less people. They're in the same part of the world, which in my opinion helps. And yeah, and yes, I understand that there's another frustration. So you talk to one person on the sales call, then there's a handoff to another account manager, and then a bunch of other people work on your emails. So yeah, just for full transparency, so you would probably have, unless you watch this video in maybe like 2 3 4 years time, and maybe we grew like crazy, you're probably going to have the sales call with me, and then after that you're going to be working with me and also an account manager, so both of us will be active in the communication. um and yeah, unless we grew a lot, and I will be straightforward with you. You can also ask me on the sales call if you would like. And yeah, I call it a sales call because everyone calls it a strategy call, or make your emails great call, but it's just kind of like everyone knows what it is. Okay, like we're gonna talk about, yes, I will give you my thoughts about emails. I will try to make the call as valuable as possible. But yes, if you ask me questions, we can talk about how it could work together. And it's just easy to call it sales call, and I think it's funny to kind of go against the grain. Okay, agency pros. So I touched on many of these. Wide range of experience and expertise. So we worked with over 200 brands. So we've seen it, different countries, different niches, different sizes of businesses, different personalities to businesses, stuff like that. Usually cheaper than an in-house team. You don't need to train us as well. Um, you get a team of specialists. So all the designer does every day, for example, is design emails. Um, and we have ready-made infrastructure. So all of my processes already built for email marketing. So you don't need to build out new processes, which takes ages. Especially like you can build like for example, let's say you work in ClickUp, right? And you can build a process of like, okay, we're gonna have the to-do column, and then it's like to like do the copywriting and then checking stuff and then design it and then checking again and then moving to Klaviyo and then checking again. Okay, great. You build the systems, but now you need to have your team get used to the systems, which takes, in my opinion, like 3, 4, 6 months. So we already have them. So you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. All right. This video was way longer than I expected, which might be okay. If you got this far, thanks so much for watching. It kind of became more like a podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, all of this. I didn't have any call to action button as much, or calls to action in this video. Hope you got some value out of it and some thought experiments, maybe new perspectives. Thanks so much. If you got this far, I love you.